President Tinubu says government erecting solid economic foundation for Nigerians. FCT Police Command confirmed a RISE staff, Somtochukwu Maduagu, died after jump from top floor of apartment during robbery. Pengasan suspends nationwide strike. On the foreign scene, U.S. government shuts down after senators fail to agree on last-minute funding bill. Good evening. This is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. I am Temitope Ajijolaoluwaola. We begin in the nation's capital, where President Bola Tinubu says he is erecting a solid economic foundation for Nigerians, presenting a scorecard on the anniversary of the country's independence. The president said he inherited a near-collapsed economy caused by decades of fiscal policy distortions and misalignment that had impaired real growth. The president said the nation's currency is stronger, the stock market is experiencing an unprecedented boom, and coal mining has recovered dramatically. He also said non-oil exports now represent 48% of export trade. External reserves increased to $42.03 billion in September, and 330 billion naira has been disbursed to 8 million households under the Social Investment Program. President Tinubu has said the nation has turned the corner, asked all Nigerians to turn on the taps of productivity, innovation, and enterprise. He also said his administration has worked hard to tackle the security challenges facing parts of the country. The president stated that peace had returned to the liberated communities in the northeast and northwest regions. President Tinubu also hails Nigeria's progress in key sectors such as healthcare, technology, infrastructure, and defense since gaining independence 65 years ago.
For decades, the promise of our independence has been tested by profound social, economic, and political challenges, and we have survived. While we may not have achieved all the lofty dreams of our forebearers, we have not strayed too far from them. In 65 years since our independence, we have made tremendous progress in economic growth, social cohesion, and physical development. Our economy has experienced significant growth since 1960. Although it is much easier for those whose vocation is to focus solely on what ought to be, we must recognize and celebrate our significant progress. Nigerians today have access to better education and healthcare than in 1960. At independence, Nigeria had 120 secondary schools with a student population of about 130,000. Available data indicate that as of year 2024, there were more than 23,000 secondary schools in our country. At independence, we had only the University of Ibadan and Yaba College of Technology as the two tertiary institutions in Nigeria. By the end of last year, there were 274 universities, 183 polytechnics, and 236 colleges of education in Nigeria.
As Nigeria marks its 65th independence anniversary, Osun residents join other Nigerians to felicitate. In this report, Lydia Adewaju spoke to residents who expressed their wishes for the future.
Prayers and wishes are already trooping in as Nigeria marks its 65th independence anniversary celebration. On this day in 1960, Nigeria became a nation-state, sovereign and emancipated officially from the colonial rulership. Looking back at where Nigeria is coming from, Nigerians also expressed hope for a brighter future. Mrs. Fumilayo Adediji hoped that Nigeria's economy would change for the better, especially as the leaders strive to diversify the economy and create job opportunities for the youths.
The situation in this country was very hard. We should not rely on only petroleum. We need them to apply wisdom on agriculture, and they should establish good foundation on to employ something that will be benefit for our children, because those times that we are here, that they born us, we are eating aroso, rice in Uncle Ben's inside that carton. You understand? You can't know it, but very suitable. But now everything was rise up. We are not happy with all what is happening now, and we are begging our leadership that they should put more effort on everything.
Mr. Adeni Yadenle, another resident, lamented the dire state of affairs in the land, especially as regards insecurity and governance, and urged that going forward, Nigerians would choose leaders wisely and not be swayed by hush monies that kill the future.
We have to emphasize a lot on security, a lot on job security, on even the security architectures of this our country. And the prices of goods have to come down. If you want to have any peaceful coexistence in this country, we are suffering terribly. We are suffering. But we cannot blame our government. We are as well, we can still blame them because of the problems lies in the hands of the electorate. They always mortgage their conscience during the election period. They will say their vote, not minding what will come out of it. And not only that, our leaders themselves, they are wicked. Wicked in the sense that instead of them to give an enabling environment for this youth to use their ingenuity or creativity, they deny them all this. When there's no job for them to do, when there's no any other thing, most of these youth came from a very poor home, very humble background. So we are begging our government to rethink, to have a rethink, so that we can have a brighter future.
It has been 65 years of trying out what system and policy works for Nigeria and Nigerians, and in that vein, Mrs. Mojisola Bankole on her part can only offer words of prayers for a better tomorrow.
If there's going to be change, let there be good change in Nigeria. Let there be progress. Let there be progress in all ways for Nigeria. Let there be peace. Let there be money, plenty money in Nigeria. And let everybody be okay in Jesus' name. That's all I have. I pray the 65th year or 65th anniversary of Nigeria will be peaceful for us. It will be progressive in all ways in Jesus' name.
Although this year's independence celebration did not feature the usual independence parade at the Eagle Square in Abuja, as that was cancelled, President Bola Tinubu in his address pledged a better tomorrow. Declaring that the worst is over, he also craved Nigerians' patience and perseverance so the present pain can birth future gains. Lydia Adegbaju, Western Spring Television News.
To further discuss the trajectory of Nigeria at 65, we are joined on the news at 7 by Bolaji Olabode, a public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, so it's 65 years after independence. How would you assess, the trajectory of democracy, the Nigeria's democratic journey, from that time to now, compared with other African countries?
All right. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here. If you take a look at the independence of Nigeria, when we compare it particularly to the journey of other African countries, maybe like Ghana, like Mauritius, who are long-standing independent nation, you are going to see that for over the years, Nigeria has stand at a wide gap in between them. Of course, they share the same kind of issues because there's a governance fatigue that is bedeviling all African countries right now. But among them all, Nigeria has a strong electoral body in which repeatedly we have been able to have our electoral cycle consistently. Therefore, in that situation, we are a bit different when it comes to other African countries. But what we must look at is that in our civic space, there is still an issue around this in which our people are clamoring and saying that there should be freedom for the media, There should be freedom for protest. These are issues in which we must look into when we are talking, because now we see the issue of legitimacy. Of course, there is still an absence of public trust in our institutions. So therefore, we have to work more on this. But it's not all doom and gloom when we look at our journey so far since over 6 decades and 5 years ago.
All right, so with our political history so far, what lessons do you think we can draw from our political history to better or to further, our democratic institutions?
One of the lessons in which we can draw from this is to strengthen checks and balances among governance structure, especially when it comes to issue of executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. There must be independent judiciary. Until we are able to achieve this, definitely it means we have not really drawn any lesson so far over the years in our democratic journey. There must be a legislative in which that is not delegated. Okay. It is not a rubber stamp legislative in which whatever the executive brings to the table is being stamped by them. These are the lessons in which we must draw over the years in this. And there must be a protection of civic space. We must be able to protect our civic space. People must be willing to say their mind. People must be able to protest if there is a need for it. People must be willing to able to speak their mind as time dictates. Therefore, we must learn that the true democracy is the one in which people have the rights and their rights are not being infringed on.
All right. We've been practicing federalism for a while now. Do you think that we have come to birth, or a restructuring is inevitable?
All right. Taking a look at our federalism, of course, this federalism has achieved a geographical unity when we take a look at it. Of course, there is unity within the country, there is unity within the nation, but we must take a look at the issue of the resources that has been controlled at the center. And therefore, it has continued to call for more of restructuring. Right. Take a look at the issue of state police. People have been saying there must be a way in which states must have control over its own police. We are talking about the issue of local government autonomy also. These are calls in which people have been saying, okay, let us look into this critically. Without doing all this, people will continue to clamor for restructuring. And it is not only enough for us to have geographical unity alone. People must have a sense of belonging. People must have a sense in which they share in the success of the nation. Not that it's being controlled from one hand and in which others people are not being able to benefit from it. So therefore, we must look critically into the aspect of strengthening our institutions so that we are able to achieve the federalism and the restructuring that we are clamoring for.
All right, now that brings us to leadership issues. Some would say Nigeria and as well as other African countries are bedeviled by leadership, issues. So now, our leadership in the past 6.5 decades, how would you rate it? What are our failings? What are our gains over the years?
All right. When we take a look at our leadership in the country, leadership must be judged by the outcome that it has on the ordinary citizen. Therefore, if you take a look at that angle, we are going to say that our leaders have a lot to do when it comes to the issue of the way in which they govern our people. Okay. So because anytime we talk about the statistics, the economy is growing, this is happening, the inflation is going down, but what is the impact on the ordinary citizen? Therefore, these are the questions in which we must ask. Have we been able to put food on the table of a citizen? In a country of about 234 million, as quoted by the Vice President at the United Nations Assembly about last week, and about half of this population, and when we talk about half of the population, that's about 116 million people are still living below the poverty line. It means there's a need for us to still do more. Look at the inflation rate, a bit above 20%. Therefore, there is a lot for us to do when it comes to leadership. Our leaders must be able to take the bull by its horn and make sure that whatever they do at the end of affairs must go down to the ordinary citizen. Without this, nothing has been achieved over the years. You can continue to score statistics, but if the people are hungry, over little thing, definitely the leadership has not achieved much. But over the years, taking a look at where we are coming from and where we are now, I am entirely optimistic that we are going to get better.
Looking at the young minds, the population, the youth strength that we have in Nigeria, do you think that Nigeria has really harnessed, the youth strength? Are they leveraged on the youth population of Nigeria? And how do they do that going forward?
All right, we can do better, but honestly, I can tell you, with the 70% population, percent of our population being the youths, we can start to judge whether it is the UN statistics saying 18 to 34, or other charter which says 18 to 35 or 18 to 25, whichever one we want to choose. Nigerian population of youth is about 70% of total population. Therefore, if we announce this very well, it's going to speak well for us. Over the years, we can see that the trajectory of the Nigerian image in the national, in the subnational, and at the international level has changed, because most of our youth who are before now called lazy, who are before now called Yahoo Yahoo, the image is changing, which means right now our youth are finding means, especially with the advent of technology. They are doing better in that situation. Therefore, the government must look into this in terms of culture, technology, ICT, and sports. We must be able to announce this together for the image of the country to be much more better. But the youth are doing fine, but the country can do better, especially the leadership, because I can tell you categorically that most of the development we have achieved, most of what the youth are doing are a product of self-made youths, in which they are the one in which they are putting in all their strengths to be able to achieve much for themselves. The government must tap into these resources, the human resources that we have in our youth, so that we can be able to achieve a nation that is built on the trust of the people.
All right. Looking at the climate of the nation, bedeviled by security issues, ethnic and religious divisions here and there, and all of that, people would say that at 65, Nigeria ought not to be here anymore. Yes. How do we move forward? Do you see unity at the end of the day on the religious and ethnic lines? And do we have, a safer country? This is 65.
All right. One of these things, the thing in which we must look into is that you cannot take away division from the people by ignoring them. Therefore, we must understand that we are a nation of different ethnicity. We are a nation of different religion. We are a nation in which we are even from different region. But that understanding does not take away that in that our diversity, there must be unity. But it's a pity that most of our political elites, our elites, are the ones during election, they come around, they divide us along those regions, the focus of election, because of votes. And therefore, I can say that a nation building is hard. We are colonial borders, are fuse people together. Therefore, it is us that we must think beyond the level in which we are now, so that we might be able to move beyond the level we have. Also, wherever there is a scarce commodity, people are contesting around a very scarce commodity. It is very difficult to build a national unity around the people in that sense. So therefore, for us to be able to have this image of national unity outside, the leadership must be able to provide more. Maybe invest in agro business, invest in technology, like I've said earlier, invest in ICT, that the people will have a sense of sharing in the nation's success. Without that, when a region feels that they are out of the game, when a religion feels they are not part of the success of the nation, there is continuing going to be what I call it a protest. We can call it a protest. We can call it cries and whatever outside there. We are not going to achieve that unity. There must be a sense that we all belong to the same country and we all share out of his own successes.
Well, Mr. Olabode, as you're still very much youthful yourself.
Thank you very much.
What is the elaborate vision of Nigeria, in the coming years that you've painted in your own mind as a youth? How would you want Nigeria to thrive? You used to want all of this jackpot syndrome. Is that what you see? Is that what you foresee for your children and for, up and coming youths, behind you? How do you see Nigeria? What do you wish for, for Nigeria in the coming year?
Okay, Nigeria at 65 for me is a nation with an immense promise. And therefore, what I can say about it is that it depends on how the leadership are able to harness this potential into prosperity. Okay. This nation depends on how even the citizens themselves are able to speak about justice, talk about accountability. It is only when the leadership and the followership, they do their part, that is when we can achieve the nation of our dream. We must not, as followership, concentrate whatever we have to do to the leadership alone. It must be accountable leadership and responsible followership. Without that, we are not going to move forward as a nation.
All right, Mr. Olabode Bolaji, thank you for joining us, a public affairs analyst and educational consultant. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, in the same light, ex-President Goodluck Jonathan has urged Nigerians not to despair in spite of the current challenges, but continue to nurture hope and the possibilities of greatness within the country. Jonathan stated in his goodwill message to Nigerians on the occasion of the 65th independence anniversary. The independence anniversary offers Nigeria an opportunity to reflect on its collective journey of nation building, including the challenges faced and the vast possibilities that still lie ahead. Meanwhile, former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi has accused the All Progressives Congress, APC, of domination what was once a promising nation at the Nigeria's independence. Obi, while speaking in Abuja on Wednesday, argued that despite the policies of the current administration plunging over 15 million people below the poverty line in the first year alone, it still pursues a tax regime demanding its citizens pay more to the government despite benefiting little or nothing in return. He also snapped the APC-led government for what he called reckless borrowing that has further impoverished the nation, with its leaders feasting while the people are fasting. Governance expert and lawyer Joe Abba has described the 1966 military coup as Nigeria's worst national tragedy. He remarked on Wednesday at the Platform Nigeria, an Independence Day event hosted by Covenant Nation Church in Igomu, Lagos. Abba, who spoke on the program themed Rebuilding Our Nation, stressed that Nigeria's 1963 Republican Constitution offered the strongest structure for governance and economic development. He lamented that the 1966 coup ended this arrangement, dating it ushered in nearly 30 years of military rule, recalling Nigeria's regional achievements before military intervention. The governance expert said that regional competition promoted innovation and growth until the military took away all the power that the regions had. Abba criticized Nigeria's over-centralized governance structure, saying it remained a legacy of military rule.
Believe it or not, this was Nigeria in 1963. You can see the cars in a queue. Let me shock you even further. This was Lagos in 1963. You can see the cars all in a row, the bikes and bicycles, the pedestrians, everything was organized. Some of our young people have never seen a working Nigeria. And they are very easy to seduce by the idea that it is under military rule that Nigeria works the best. Nothing is further from the truth. You can see Nigerians driving with decorum without any force, without any military, without anybody forcing them to do so. And so this is the nation that our founding fathers built, which this event is trying to get us to now rebuild. Interestingly, the revenue allocation for
Now to security matters, Kwara State Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak has vowed the bandits and kidnappers will find no hiding place in the state following Sunday's bloody attack on Okyode community in Ifelodu local government area. Government had reportedly ambushed local vigilantes and a traditional leader in the area, leaving several people dead and residents gripped with fear. In a statement by its chief press secretary, Rafiu Ajakaye, on Wednesday, Abdulrazak said he had already briefed President Bola Tinubu on the situation and renewed his call for additional federal deployment to flush out criminal gangs operating in border communities. The governor disclosed that the Army headquarters had relocated the general officer commanding of the 2nd Division to Ilorin as part of intensified security operations. Abdulrazak assured residents that his government would continue to provide logistics and support for security agencies to protect lives and property. In Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory Police Command has confirmed that the Rise News correspondent Somto Chukwu Maduago died after jumping from the top floor of a Katampe apartment during an armed robbery on Monday, September 29, 2025. The clarification comes amid earlier reports suggesting that the journalist's death was linked to alleged hospital negligence after she was taken to Maitama General Hospital. Speaking on Wednesday, confirming the incident, the FCT Commissioner of Police at Jao Adewale said officers found Maduago unconscious at the scene and rushed her to the hospital. Adewale said the robbers invaded unique apartment, a 3-story twin building with 18 flats located around the Gishiri axis of Katampe under the Mapushi divisional area. Adewale said an investigation team led by the Deputy Commissioner of Police investigation had been set up to track down the attackers, assuring that no stone will be left unturned until the perpetrators are brought to justice. In Taraba, troops of 6th Brigade Nigerian Army, Sector 3, Operation Wild Streak, have arrested 2 fake policemen at Takulum Junction, located in the Wakari local government area. Acting on credible intelligence, troops alongside the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and the LEA operatives intercepted the suspects who were dressed in mobile police uniforms and found with 2 Toyota Hilux vehicles loaded with substances suspected to be cannabis sativa. A statement from Lieutenant Umar Mohammed, Acting Assistant Director, Army Public Relations, 6th Brigade Nigerian Army, says preliminary investigation revealed that none of the occupants are serving policemen. The cannabis-laden vehicles were traced to have been loaded from Akure, Ondo State, and were heading towards Adamawa State before interception. A total of 1,134 blocks of cannabis were recovered from the 2 vehicles, and both the suspects and the recovered exhibits have been handed over to the NDLEA office and will carry for further investigation and prosecution. In other news, the federal government has said the Dangote Group will redeploy staff earlier disengaged from its refinery operations following the resolution of its dispute with the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria. The federal government also announced that the redeployed staff will not suffer any loss of pay due to the redeployment. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Mohammed Maigari Dingyadi, confirmed this in a statement issued on Wednesday in Abuja. The minister also stated that no worker will be victimized arising from their role in the impasse between Dangote and Pengassan. The minister also stressed that unionization is a right of workers in accordance with the laws of Nigeria, and this right should be respected. The conciliation meetings followed a breakdown in earlier talks between the refinery management and Pengassan, which had ended in the deadlock on Monday. The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengassan, has suspended its nationwide strike. Pengassan President Festus Osifo announced the suspension at a press conference in Abuja. He explains that the decision followed a meeting with the National Security Advisor and the management of Dangote Refinery. Osifo admitted that grey areas remain in the communique, which both the government and refinery management could not fully clarify. He stressed that the association suspended the strike in good faith, despite lingering dissatisfaction with parts of the resolution. Osifo warned that Pengassan would resume the industrial action without notice if Dangote Refinery fails to honor the agreement. Elsewhere, the Nigeria Immigration Service has begun a clampdown on foreign nationals who have overstayed their visa and violated entry conditions. NIA spokesperson Akishola Kilabi announced the move in a statement on Tuesday night. The development follows the expiration of a 5-month amnesty period granted by the service for foreigners in such categories to regularize their status without penalties. The window had opened on May 1 and closed on September 30. Akilabi said the enforcement will apply to holders of expired visa on arrival, holders of expired single and multi-entry short visas or business visas, and individuals with expired comprehensive expatriate residence permit and automated card. You're watching News at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come. Foremost analyst Oluoma's success discusses how far we have come and the way forward for Nigeria. We'll bring you more on this while we return. Stay with us.
Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi